Which free agency signing made by your favorite team is my favorite so far this 2024 NFL free agency? What's going on, football fans? It's Mitch back here with another NFL free agency video. And in this video, I'm giving you my favorite signing made by your favorite team. That's right, breaking down all 32 NFL teams and the best move they've made so far this offseason. That sounds good. Don't forget to spike the like button. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree with my take on the best move made by your favorite team. I always love hearing from the fan bases across the NFL, so let me know if you agree or disagree with my take. When it comes to what it means to be my favorite signing, it can be as simple as just being a vibe about a player going to a certain team. It can be as complicated as a schematic fit or a financial in terms of the contract, them getting less money than I would have thought on the open market. There's a variety of reasons why a player going to a certain team just gets me going a little bit. So with that being said, let's get started. We're going to go in alphabetical order, beginning with the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals signed a bunch of under the radar, and I definitely think you would put it in that category, defensive free agents. And they didn't really try to swing big. But if there is one under the radar free agent defensively that I think gives them major upside in this contract, it's Mack Wilson coming from the Patriots to the Cardinals. Mack Wilson, I always felt as an off-ball linebacker, when he signed with New England, I was excited. I thought he was a good player with Cleveland in his early seasons. He goes to New England. In his first year, he's kind of like a special teamer / sub backer. And then this past season, he really played well down the stretch. And he was playing off the ball linebacker, but also edge. So Cardinals fans, I'd be excited about his versatility. He's a great athlete. He can really move well. He can cover, and he can also rush the passer. So there's a lot of things he can bring to this defense. And with how Gannon was able to distribute the defense up front last year, I could expect him to have a huge year in terms of pressuring the quarterback, covering the middle of the field, and also just being a rangy backer that fits what Gannon wants to do in Arizona. I think this is a very nice, underrated signing by Arizona. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, it's Kirk Cousins, because when it comes to the quarterback position, you need a guy. And Kirk Cousins, I just feel like for the majority of his career, has been mistreated and underrated. And I've always been a Kirk Cousins backer because I think he's always been better than people give him credit for. He's accurate. He's smart. He knows where to go with the ball. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And he operates an offense really, really well. And I think he's a great fit for the new scheme in Atlanta, right? Robinson is a McVay guy. McVay coached Cousins. Cousins has been in offenses under Stefanski, O'Connell, and many others, Kubiak, all from the same tree. He's always been successful within that offense, and you really took a swing. But I love it for Atlanta because they needed a quarterback desperately. They were just going to be stuck in no man's land, so at least now they're going for it a little bit and trying to win with this young core of offensive talent that they have. Cousins gives them a chance to win the division and be a playoff team. You have to love that. I don't really care if you win a Super Bowl or not. At least you're going to be competitive. That's all I really care about, right? At the end of the day, that's more enjoyable as a fan than just being a team that is 7-10 or 8-9 every year because your quarterback stinks. And it's also a lot more enjoyable to watch. Next up, we've got the Baltimore Ravens signing Derrick Henry. This one's obvious, but I think it's obvious for good reason. Derrick Henry is a just unbelievable fit for the Baltimore Ravens. First of all, you have the dynamic between Lamar Jackson, an electric, explosive quarterback runner, with Derrick Henry in the backfield at the same time. There's so many things you could do with this. From the gun, right? You're going to have to deal with the quarterback keeper, the read option, all the different stuff in terms of zone read. And then under center, you're going to have to deal with play action pass. You're going to have to deal with, is Lamar going to keep it on the run? Is he going to hand it to Henry? Then you have to deal with the power, the toughness, the grit that he brings to the Ravens, and installing that attitude that Baltimore, I think, is needing to get back over the top. That's something that made Ray Lewis's teams feared, that toughness, and Derrick Henry brings it to the offense. Getting Lamar under center more might be the key to unlocking this offense to an even greater level. And I understand he was the MVP, but this could make them a balanced machine come playoff time that's tougher to defend in the bigger moments. So I'm excited for Derrick Henry playing in Baltimore. I think it's a great fit. Inside zone, outside zone, under center, in the gun. It's going to be nice. The Bills signing Curtis Samuel. I think this is a really nice signing for the Bills. I think this makes their offense dramatically more explosive, right? Curtis Samuel is a 4-3 guy. And I think he's just been underrated his whole career because he's played with bad quarterbacks. He's played in multiple offenses, and he always played his best under Joe Brady. And I felt like that was his best season in his career, and they utilized him correctly, right? They used him as a bit of a hybrid running back wide receiver, but he's also a really good vertical route runner. Like, I think that's the underrated thing about him. He's going to bring speed, a vertical threat to the offense that stretches defenses out, doesn't allow teams to double team Stephon Diggs, doesn't allow teams to sit on Dalton Kincaid underneath. It's going to help Josh Allen so much just in terms of the spacing of the field, and then allowing him to have an explosive guy that he can not only hit deep, but also on a screen, and that guy can make a difference underneath. So Samuel's always been a personal favorite of mine as an underrated player. I've wanted New England to sign him for many years, and now he finds his way to Josh Allen and the Bills. I think that's a great fit for him. Jordan Fuller to the Carolina Panthers. Jordan Fuller is just a really good playmaking safety. He knows how to make a play. Like, there's just guys that inherently know how to play football, right? And Jordan Fuller is one of those guys. He can punch the ball out when you need a big play. He can intercept a pass when you need a big play. He's always seemingly in the right position. The Rams coaching staff adored him, and I'm surprised he didn't go back, but I do believe Evero once upon a time was a part of the Rams staff, so he originated there. I'm sure he had something to do with Fuller's development. Fuller probably saw Evero in his own spot in Carolina, saw an opportunity not only to make money, but also to go to a coach that he really likes, and I understand it 100%. I think he's going to be one of the leaders of their back end. I think he's a really good, underrated player that was a cheap pickup for Carolina. I think that is going to really help them in the secondary. Next up, Keenan Allen to the Bears, and I put Bears signed Keenan Allen. Regardless, trade, signing, either way, it's an awesome move by the Bears, right? 4th round pick for a Hall of Very good player, a multi-time 1,000-yard receiver. I don't know, 6-7-time 1,000-yard receiver, a multi-time 100-catch guy. He's coming off one of his best seasons, if not his most productive statistical season of his entire career. He is one of the best underneath intermediate threats in football. He is an exquisite route runner. He has extremely high IQ, and he is going to be a perfect quarterback-friendly, middle-of-the-field slot threat for Caleb Williams. Everything about this screams, not only can we help our quarterback produce early, our quarterback succeed early, but we can also be a good team with this addition and this complement to the rest of the offense when it comes to the running game and DeAndre Swift, when it comes to Cole Kmet at tight end, DJ Moore. All of them will get better thanks to the presence of Keenan Allen in the slot. So you got to love that move. Next up, Trent Brown signing with the Cincinnati Bengals. I've always been a big Trent Brown guy. As soon as I saw him in 2018 with the Patriots playing left tackle, I thought he was one of the best tackles in football that year. I think ever since, as long as he's been motivated, he's been a darn good football player. It hasn't always worked out in San Francisco or Las Vegas or even New England at times because of injuries, motivation factors. But when Trent Brown is on his game, there are few that can dominate the way that Trent Brown can. And seeing as how he went to a place with a quarterback that has a great leader in Joe Burrow, that has an established winning culture, that is a place that he's going to want to play. He's going to want to play his best. He's going to want to protect number 9. I just think this is a perfect situation for Trent Brown. And it's a great fit schematically in terms of power game, in terms of downhill gap scheme, in terms of you could put Trent Brown on an island. The Patriots did that with Trent Brown more than any other tackle in the NFL, right? So Trent Brown is a guy that's used to not getting help, and that's only going to help the rest of the offensive line. Right tackle's been a problem in pass protection for Joe Burrow's entire career, and even including Jonah Williams, right? And Trent Brown will not be an issue as long as he's on the field. Next up, Jordan Hicks to the Cleveland Browns. I'm just a big fan of Jordan Hicks. I just think he's underrated. I think he has been for a number of years. I just think he's a great leader. And I know that Jim Schwartz thinks the same because this is one of his guys, right? This is why they signed him. If you thought any different, you're wrong, right? He's the defensive coordinator of the Browns. He was the defensive coordinator of the Eagles. There's obvious crossover there. He obviously understands the system. I think Hicks will bring a lot in terms of the blitzing concepts that the Browns will run there. I think they got a little blitz happy late last year, which is a blessing and a curse as well, especially when you have a guy like Myles Garrett. You don't really need to blitz as much as they probably did, but he's really good in that regard. He's also going to bring, I think, a little bit of an upgrade to the run defense. He's very smart at sniffing out those runs, and I think he's going to be a mature adult at the linebacker position, a much-needed veteran in the middle of the defense. They've often gone very young at this position, and I think they finally have realized, what IQ can do for you and what that savviness and veteran presence can do at the linebacker position. So I think that is a big-time signing that the Browns have needed for years, and I think they've finally done it with an under-the-radar move. Next up, Eric Kendricks to the Dallas Cowboys. This is the obvious one because it's the only one that I can really choose. I'm not going to pick a re-signing because that's boring. Eric Kendricks, I do see positives in this move. I think that he's a solid replacement for Leighton Vander Esch. I think he obviously has rapport in Mike Zimmer's defense. He obviously understands it to a T. And I think he's really going to upgrade the size of the linebacker position. I think he's going to upgrade the run defense of this linebacker and second level for the Dallas Cowboys. And I think that's something that was really bad last year. Like, they just got ran over. They were too small at linebacker last year, and they were not good enough against the run, and they couldn't hold up at the second level and shedding blocks. I think Kendricks can do all those things. Now, when it comes to coverage, I think it's a little concerning, but in run defense, in physicality, in IQ, you're getting still a very good player in terms of Eric Kendricks. The Detroit Lions signing DJ Reader. It's funny because initially I wasn't like a huge fan of this move, but this is the best player the Lions got this offseason. Like, I love Carlton Davis, but there's a little bit more of a risk to that move. I think there's almost no risk to this move. I understand he's coming off an injury, but it's not like it was an Achilles or an ACL even. It was a little bit lesser than that. So DJ Reader is just still in his prime, really awesome run defender, and I think he's one of those defensive linemen that make it easier on everyone else. He's such a good run defender. He's so good at eating up space. He's so good at pushing the pocket that it just makes everybody around him exponentially better. And his role and how good he is at that nose tackle type of role is going to free up other people. So I just think from a schematic standpoint, it makes the defense, be able to do things they weren't able to do, maybe commit less bodies to the run game, all that sort of stuff. And it makes the Lions a drastically overall better team because of his presence in that run game, as well as his presence on the defensive line in general. Next up, Xavier McKinney to the Green Bay Packers. Xavier McKinney was simply one of the best players available in free agency, and one of the youngest up-and-coming teams in football were able to snatch him off the market just like that. It was almost instant, and it was a great signing. It was brilliant. Everybody thought it might happen because of the connection between himself and the ties to the Alabama, lineage there, but McKinney is a great player. He can do it all. He can play free, strong, box, deep safety. He can play zone. He can play man. He can match up with people. He could probably play nickel. He can blitz. He can do it all. He's probably a top 10 safety in football. He's really young. I think he's like 25. So I mean, it's a brilliant signing. There's nothing else really has to be said. It's the biggest need on the football team. It's a great player. He's young. It's like perfect across the board. There's almost like no downside to this whatsoever. Maybe he might not play up fully to like his level of play. Even then, you're getting a solid player. So it's just, it can't go wrong in any way, shape, or form. Next up, Danielle Hunter to the Texans. You guys knew this was coming. Danielle Hunter is just a beast. Like, he is a Hall of Fame level talent. I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame resume quite yet, but Hall of Fame level talent. Whenever you have like 14 and a half sacks multiple times throughout your career in multiple different defensive systems, you know you're pretty good at football, like as a defensive lineman. And he's just crafted from, you know, the Greek gods to be a defensive end. Like, he's made out of stone. He's explosive. He's big, he's fast, he's strong. Like, he could do everything, and he could play in any system, and he could play in any spot. He could stand up, he could put hand in the dirt, he can probably drop back in coverage. He's so fast. He's just going to make the defense like to a different level. Like, last year, the Vikings had almost no talent besides him, and he still made them a formidable pass rush. That is the type of player he is. It's an exponential increase to the Texans pass rush. It's going to help Will Anderson. It's going to help Danico Autry. It's going to help the guys in the inside. It's going to help the secondary because of how fast he gets to the quarterback. It's going to help D'Amico call certain things that he might not want to call. It's just a move that exponentially helps the entire team. Next, Michael Pittman Jr. re-signing with the Colts. This was your best move. This is the only re-signing I put in the video because I want to troll Colts fans and I want to troll Chris Ballard because you're a chicken you know what, and I do not care. Make a damn move, Ballard. Make a move. I get it. You made 2 signings. Wow. Congratulations. Draft another guard, all right? Michael Pittman Jr. is a great player. I love that you re-signed him. I thought it was the proper move to make. You need a number 1 receiver, which I think Michael Pittman is. I think he's actually underrated. I think he's a 100-catch type of receiver. I think he's a regular 1,000-yard player. I think he's somebody I'd love to have on my football team. He's consistent. He's always available. He's tough. And he's got great hands. And he knows and understands how to get open. So he's a good player. And Richardson needs him. But, man, let's make a move. Like, let's get off our couch. Let's do this thing. Next up, Ronald Darby signing with the Jags. I just thought this was like a really good contract for Ronald Darby. Thought he played amazing when he was in there for Baltimore. I've seen him play well in different schemes all over the NFL. I think he can play man or zone. I think he is one of the better guys in terms of digesting an offensive concept and being able to make the correct decision in terms of jumping routes or taking certain things away. I think he still has really good quickness to him. I think he has really good anticipation skills. I think he's a really good player. And he's been, you look at his PFF grades, he's pretty much had like 1 bad year in his entire career. He's just been very consistent. He's probably never been a CB1, but he's a very solid CB2, and that's exactly what Jacksonville needed. They were able to move off of Darius Williams, get a similar player in Ronald Darby for a lot cheaper. You have to love that move. Next up, Marquise Brown signing with the Chiefs. This one's obvious because the Chiefs really didn't have a lot of other moves that at least come from the outside. I don't even know if they've made another one, but Marquise Brown is the move that opens my eyes when it comes to the Chiefs, right? Because Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, watch out, Taylor Swift. Hollywood is coming to you. But Hollywood is going to stretch the defense. Hollywood's going to bring vertical speed. Hollywood is going to bring something that the Chiefs didn't have last year. The Chiefs were far too reliant on yards after catch, far too reliant on the quick decision-making of Patrick Mahomes, and far too reliant on going 10 plays, 12 plays on a drive. With Mr. Hollywood, you can have 3, 4, 2-play drives because of chunk plays that he can give you. On top of that, he's a proper receiver. He's probably not a number 1 in the NFL, but he's a high-end number 2. That's all this team really needed. So, great signing. And it was cheap. Next up, Christian Fulton to the Chargers. This just recently happened. I've been a Christian Fulton fan. I think At times, he's been inconsistent. At times, he's been mistreated and misused in terms of schematics. I think with the Chargers, I'm not quite sure what they're going to do in terms of, like, are they going to be more man-heavy, zone-heavy? I'm not exactly sure. I would think it would be something similar to the Ravens due to the connections between the coaching staffs here. But Fulton has been a really good zone player throughout the course of his career. I think there's been moments where he's been the best player on Tennessee's secondary. I think there was moments where he's the best corner on that team. I think there were moments where he was a top 25 corner in football a year or two ago. And he's still very young. With better coaching, a better fit for him schematically, more health, he could get back to a really nice level of play. They got him for super cheap on a one-year contract. I really like the upside in this move for a young corner that's shown flashes in the NFL. Next up, Jonah Jackson to the Rams. This was an easy one for me to decide. They haven't made a ton of moves, the Rams, but I think they've made some really nice ones on defense as well in the secondary. I really admire some of their moves. But Jonah Jackson just makes that offense kind of complete in a way. Like, he's going to be able to protect Matthew Stafford from the interior along with Kevin Dotson, who they re-signed. I think he's going to allow them to really run the ball extremely well with their go-to running back in Karen Williams. And, I mean, I love everything about it. So I don't really know what else to say. Like, you make your offensive line better. You protect your biggest asset at quarterback number 9, Matthew Stafford. You're going to keep that pocket clean. You're going to allow him to play from inside the pocket, step up in the pocket and make throws. I mean, that's exactly what you want if you're a team like the Rams. So this just makes them that much more dangerous, especially in the drop back passing game. But he's also an excellent running, blocker. So it's going to help them run the ball with Williams as well. Next up, Christian Wilkins to the Las Vegas Raiders. Christian Wilkins was the best defensive player available for many people, and he landed with the Raiders. He's still pretty young. He's in his prime. He's coming off the best season of his career, and the Raiders were able to add a monster in the middle with Max Crosby. That says it all, right? You're going to have two players now that offensive lines have to be aware of on every single snap. Plus, you have a player that not only impacts the run game at an elite level and takes on multiple blockers at a time, but also can just cause havoc from the middle of the pocket as well as a pass rusher. Complete football player. And I think this is going to be a great signing for the Raiders. I don't care how much money he got. Next up, Kendall Fuller to the Miami Dolphins. They end up cutting Xavier Howard. They signed Kendall Fuller for a cheap contract. He went for a lot cheaper than I would have expected. This is one of the best zone corners in football, one of the most versatile corners in football, one of the smartest corners in football. He's a great complement to Jalen Ramsey because both kind of can play inside or out. Both are very smart, and both, I think, at this point in their career are better in zone than man. But I love this addition. Like, you're looking at Howard, who's more of a man press guy. You switch to more of a zone scheme, and I think this makes a lot of sense for the Dolphins. I love this pickup, although it kind of made me a little jealous by how cheap he got on the contract. I just thought he was going to get more, man. Next up, Andrew Van Ginkel to the Vikings. Love Andrew Van Ginkel. I'm just like all the way around Minnesota, killing the defensive signings. And I could have went with a couple different ones, honestly. But Van Ginkel, I just think super underrated, got a modest contract. I think it's like 3 years, something like that. And really underrated pass rusher, had the best season of his career last year, already knows the defensive schemes, going to be productive. He's got the skills to be an off-ball linebacker. He's got the skills to be an edge linebacker. He's got really good pass rushing, and I think really underrated tools for that position. And then he also was the number 1 graded coverage edge in football. So all those things fit Brian Flores, right? The creeper pressures, the simulated looks where who's coming, who's going. That is going to be perfect for Andrew Van Ginkel. Giving him one-on-ones on the edge opposite Jonathan Greenard. This is just perfect all the way around. Next up, we've got Antonio Gibson signing with my New England Patriots. I just like this signing because I think, for one, it's a great fit for the new offense, the primarily probably zone running scheme, getting to the edge, having explosion. I think Antonio Gibson is an explosive back, and is the perfect back that you would want to put with a Ramondre Stevenson in terms of he's a former receiver. So he's going to be really productive on third down at running routes and getting open and understanding, how to just catch the football. You could split him out wide and treat him as an extra receiver. You can have him running routes out of the backfield and be a mismatch. You can also have him be a guy that gets 8 to 10 carries a game, and he's a 4-4, 4-3-5 type of speed where he's going to hit home run plays. He's going to be good in the screen game. There's a lot of things that I like about this. They haven't had this type of player in a while. I think this was their thought with Pierre Strong type of deal. I think this is also their replacement for James White, but they needed this player, and I really like that they got one. Next, Willie Gay signing with the New Orleans Saints. Willie Gay, I'm just a fan of him. I think he's a really good football player. I didn't think this was, the biggest need for the Saints, but he's going to make a great complement for an older Demario Davis, who's more active along the line of scrimmage, who's more active in the run game and the blitzing areas of the field. And in terms of Willie Gay, he's more of a rangy guy, but he also has the skills in terms of Spagnuolo's defense to be able to be active as a blitzer, to be able to be, active in those stunts and those different things that they do up front in terms of the simulated looks of Dennis Allen. So I think he's got a well-rounded skill set. He's got the same sort of size and length as Demario Davis does. So I think all things concerned here, it makes them a lot better in the middle of the field, and it also makes them a lot more dynamic at the linebacker position. They added much-needed speed at linebacker. Next, Jermaine Illuminor to the Giants. You guys know I like Jermaine Illuminor. He's just a very solid tackle. I think he's been underrated for a number of years. The offensive line coach with the Giants now was the guy that coached Illuminor in New England in 2020. His first really solid season in the NFL. He's since gone to the Raiders and been a really solid right tackle. He is just going to raise the floor of the offensive line of the Giants, an area where they have looked at times like one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen. Like the last couple of years, 2 out of the last 3 years, I would say, the Giants have had moments and games where you're like, they can't block a soul. Jermaine Illuminor at least gives them a chance to be formidable on the offensive line. Next, Tyron Smith to the Jets. You guys know how much I love this one. Tyron Smith is a future Hall of Fame left tackle. He's still one of the best in football. And I would not care about the Mike Williams signing as much. I would not blow it out of proportion the way I have at times this offseason if it were not for signing a left tackle that could block. Because without that, I don't think Aaron Rodgers and the Jets offense would succeed. But now that they have Tyron Smith, they can single him up on one side, get help to the right side, and they can understand how they want to build their running game, their play action game, their passing game. Rodgers can be confident in the pocket, feel like he's protected. Tyron Smith, as long as he's healthy, is going to be a great signing for the Jets. He is just a great player, period. Next, we got Saquon to the Eagles. Saquon has been one of my favorite players in football since he was drafted. I don't think he has the same explosiveness as he did as a very young running back in this league, but he is still very, very good. And I think he brings so much more than just a player on the field. He's a great running back. He's got explosiveness. He's got receiving skills. He can run routes. He can pass block. He can do it all. He can grind out yards. And he's going to be more productive in Philly with a better offensive line, even post Jason Kelce, because the Giants' offensive line was a disaster for 99% of his career. But in terms of Saquon, you're getting leadership, you're getting character, you're getting culture, you're getting just a great ambassador of football for Philly. He's just a guy you want on your team. If you've ever listened to him speak or anything about that, he is just a great guy to have in your building. Next up, we got Patrick Queen to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I could have went with Russ here, no doubt, but I just think Patrick Queen is the more you think about it, it's such a brilliant signing. It's not even expensive, honestly. Yeah, sure, top 10 money at the linebacker position, but this is a former first-round pick at the linebacker position, highly touted, out of LSU, and he ends up kind of struggling in his first year or whatever, just didn't feel like he was in the right fit under Wink Martindale. but he's ascended. He's gotten better and better and better with each and every season. He's gotten smarter. He's gotten more, just savvy. But he's also only like 25, 24, and he's already kind of reaching that prime. And the Steelers have been struggling to find athletic, rangy linebackers that can do a lot of different things in terms of covering space, in terms of, gaining ground on running backs from sideline to sideline, in terms of even blitzing. Queen can do all of these things. And you steal him from a team within your division. Like every single category that you're thinking of, age, contract, stealing him from your division, player, prospect, like all of it is a home run. Maybe he flames out and is the player he was early in his career without Mike McDonald, maybe. But even then, you're taking a chance on a former first-round pick, 25-year-old linebacker that was really awesome last year. So, even if it flames out, it's still not going to look that bad. Next up, you got Leonard Floyd to the 49ers. This is just a really nice contract. I think it's 2 years, about $20 million. For a guy that's had 9+ sacks in 4 straight seasons and is like the quintessential complimentary pass rusher. Like Leonard Floyd was the complimentary pass rusher for Aaron Donald. When they got Von Miller, he became an even better player. He's a really smart player. He went to Buffalo last year and was pretty much their best pass rusher on their team and fit in pretty well. I think he had 9.5, 10 sacks, maybe even more than that. And really productive player there. He's played in a bunch of different systems. He's fit in each and every one. He's got great length. He's a solid run defender. He does everything really at a good level. Like, he's not a phenomenal player. He's not a dominant player, but when you have Nick Bosa and Javon Hargrave on your team and you're able to get a Leonard Floyd, a proven sack producer, the way that the Niners were, it's a perfect fit. It's a great move. I think it's an upgrade over Chase Young. Next, the Seahawks trading for Howell. Now, I tried to avoid trades as much as I could. I did add the Keenan Allen one, but the Sam Howell one is just such a great concept from a general manager. This is just such a great, and I get very nerdy about this. This is just a great idea. I don't even care how it works out, but just think of the idea, right? So it's a swap of picks, sure, for Sam Howell, right? But you get a player that was pretty productive last year. I think led the NFL in attempts last season. He was sacked a ton. He was in a pretty bad situation overall. But he showed flashes of arm strength, of ability to throw the ball down the field, of a similar skill set to Geno Smith. Physically tough, mentally tough, a good leader, a guy that players respect, and a guy that is a gamer, right, overall. And you've got Geno Smith, who's on a 2-year deal, who this season is making a good chunk of money. And he's going to be the starter this year. But then after that, he's making a lot of money. And Sam Howell is making $1 million. So you could then pivot from Geno Smith, if he's not elite this year, and go with Sam Howell, a player with a similar skill set, for $30+ less million. And you could restructure your team around Sam Howell for a year and then find your next guy in the draft. Everything about this move is perfection. This is what you want to do as a general manager. Next, Jordan Whitehead back to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Todd Bowles loves his safeties around the line of scrimmage, right? Jamal Adams was the same way. Jordan Whitehead is kind of been his new Jamal Adams in Tampa in this era of Bucs football. And he was not able to replace him the last couple of years. Whitehead is a dynamic player in terms of in the box at safety. He can blitz effectively. He is a phenomenal run support player. He can set the edge. He can shoot gaps. He can get tackles for loss at safety. And he's also pretty good in coverage. Right? You saw last year what he was able to do with the Jets. So I think he's just a great scheme fit, a great player. They love him there. The coaches admire him. So I think he's awesome for them. Next, Lloyd Cushenberry to the Titans. I could have went with Calvin Ridley here. I just felt like the contract was a lot, and that's what kept me and swayed me to Lloyd Cushenberry. But Cushenberry is a young center that just had a really good year in Denver and is going to a brilliant offensive line coach in Tennessee, Callahan's father, right? So Cushenberry, I think, could project to be a Pro Bowl level player for them for the next 3 to 4 years. That's what you're looking for in free agency, and it addressed a massive need for this team. Offensive line. Their offensive line has been ugly bad the last couple of years. And the final best free agency move by your favorite team is the Commanders signing Frankie Louvu. Frankie Louvu, love this player. I love versatile players. You guys know that. And Frankie Louvu is one of the most versatile players in football. He began his career as an edge rusher. He then morphed into an off-ball linebacker. He has become a good coverage player. He's become a great run defender. He's become a great sack artist from the second level. And with Dan Quinn, he was looking for a Micah Parsons type of player. That is what Frankie Louvu can be. Not quite at the level of explosiveness on the edge, but he can do similar things. Play on the edge, play at linebacker, blitz, defend the run. Certain formations, he's going to be on the edge. Certain formations, he's going to be at linebacker. They brought in Bobby Wagner to complement him. All this is perfect. And it wasn't even a bad contract, and he's in his prime. All those things make sense to me. Super underrated asset in the NFL, Frankie Louvu. Those are my favorite signings so far this NFL free agency for every single NFL team. If you enjoyed this video, spike the like button. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Peace.